All right. Yay. Okay. Yes. Okay. So we are broadcasting on Instagram and uh, all the other ones. And now I'm gonna go live here on a fan base. All right. Okay, here we go. We are going on all cylinders. Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. Welcome to Who's Getting Sued, brought to you by NPL Legal Dish. I'm your host, Natalie Pierre-Lewis. We're not going to waste any time, guys. We're going to get right into things. So last week, just a quick recap. We talked about a few interesting things. One of the most interesting stories from last week was the fact that Crayola Crayons has managed to trademark the smell of their crayons. And we had a whole discussion last week about, Crayola competitors and how they smell and things like that. But they've managed to, them and Play-Doh, I think, are the only two big brands I know to have successfully trademarked a smell. Okay. The other big thing that we talked about was Christian Dior, the brand, was suing an adult film star who was trying to trademark her stage name of Gigi Dior because they said, it would tarnish the brand. They didn't want to face ridicule. So they were not suing her, but they were opposing her trademark application for her business name. And the third thing that we talked about was, another Kanye lawsuit. Kanye settled a lawsuit with someone whose work that he had used on his one of his albums without permission, one of many. So that was last week, but this is a new week. We have a whole new slew of stories to talk about. So buckle your belts, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. So our first story of the evening, let me share this with y'all. Okay. What am I singing? How many of you guys watched the big game last night or the Super Bowl? Now, before the Super Bowl, remember I talked to you guys about checking out the ads and stuff and seeing who used Super Bowl and who used like the big game, right? Well, how many of you guys were rooting for the Chiefs and how many were rooting for the Eagles? If you were rooting for the Eagles, give me an eagle emoji in the comments. If you were rooting for the Chiefs, I'm not sure what you should give me, but just put something in there, okay? If you were rooting for the Eagles, give me a bird emoji. If you were rooting for the Kansas City Chiefs, give me, I don't know, give me a horse emoji or something. Anyway, if you didn't know, if you're not a big football person, this was the Chiefs' third year in a row at the Super Bowl, and they won the prior two. So of course they were favored to win this what you call it game, right? Unfortunately, the Chiefs were not able to pull that off. But had they been able to, they were going to have an interesting situation on their hands. So if the Chiefs had won this third Super Bowl in a row, people were obviously going to start calling it a three-peat. But if you didn't know, the word three-peat is actually trademarked. The former coach of the Lakers, Pat Riley, he trademarked that phrase in the, I want to say, the late 80s, early 90s, because he was so sure that the Lakers were going to do well. So Pat Riley said, hey, if the Chiefs win, they can use the term 3P long as they, break me off a little bit of cash, okay? So this is the power of trademarks and owning your intellectual property, right? Pat Riley didn't know that, the Chiefs were going to be in this space at the Super Bowl. He did it years ago, because he believed in the talent of the Lakers and he put his money where his mouth is. And had the Chiefs won, Pat Riley was going to have an opportunity to make some money because he could have licensed out the use of the word three-peat for, whatever the Chiefs wanted to do had they won. Unfortunately, they didn't. Did anybody watch the game? It was a bit painful to watch the first 2.5 quarters. But the Chiefs managed to, come back to a respectful score. At one point, I think the score was like 0-33, and I was like, just go home. But they managed to score a respectful thing. But yeah, so that it would have been very interesting to see them using the three-peat, to describe their third win in a row. Let me close these out, okay, so I don't get confused. Next story that we are talking about. Again, we are talking about the power of owning intellectual property. If you have ever heard of the Proud Boys, you know what? Don't even. We're not going to give them too much shine. If you don't know who the Proud Boys are a hate group who, during the 2020 election, attacked a historically Black church in DC, right? So they caused damage, of course. The church took the Proud Boys to court, and the Proud Boys never responded, meaning they just paid the lawsuit dust. So the church ended up getting a default judgment against the Proud Boys for $2.8 million, right? So since the Proud Boys basically were trying to pay it dust, what the court did was they took a piece of property that the Proud Boys organization owned, which was their trademark, and they have transferred ownership to the church. Now, if you didn't know, Proud Boys, they sell merch, right, to support their cause of hate and whatever. So let's say if the Proud Boys decides to continue and they still want to sell merch, they're not going to be able to make money off of that because this historically Black church known as Metropolitan African Methodist Episcopal Church now owns the trademark for the Proud Boys. Okay, so this is a good way of sticking it to them in the wallet because you're trying to sell merch so you can spread hate, and now everything that you sell, all the profit goes to this church. So find something else to do with your time. Okay. Any comments while we're here? We just finished talking about the Chiefs and how they were going to be able to use the term three-peat, and we just talked about the Proud Boys losing their trademark to a historically Black church that they had vandalized. Okay, if you just popped in, you are watching Who's Getting Sued This Week. This is where we learn business and legal concepts using pop culture and celebrity news. I am Natalie Pierre-Lewis, and I am the host of the show. Hold on a second. Okay. And I'm the host of the show. And I'm also a business attorney who loves helping creatives and entrepreneurs get their businesses off the ground. So if you need help with that, I want you guys to go to this link right here and, book yourself a free 15-minute consultation. Okay. Moving on to our next story of the evening. Let me Is this the one that I wanted? No. No. Okay. I'm going to put this person's picture up. And when I put this person's picture up, I want you to tell me the first thing that comes to mind in terms of their work. When you see this person, type it in the comments. Let me know what you think of in terms of their work. What are they known for? What are they known for? What are they known for? Don't mind me. Anyway, this is Nick Cannon. Nick Cannon is a very he's a very, what you call it? He's a great businessman. He he's a multimillionaire, lots of ideas, and one of his biggest contributions to pop culture was this comedy show Wild and Out. If you ever watched Wild and Out, if you're watching live or if you're watching the replay, please just type wild in the comments so I can have an idea. Now, I did not realize this, but Wild and Out has been on for 21 seasons, and I don't think the show is actually airing now. They now have like a live show that they do. They go from city to city. But Wild and Out was wildly successful for VH1. And if you guys remember, there was a point when Nick Cannon, Nick Cannon had some issue in the public, in the media. He had said some derogatory things, I think, about Jewish people, and it caused a whole kerfuffle. They removed him from being the host of America's Got Talent. They removed him from being the host of Wild and Out. The thing with Wild and Out is that Nick Cannon developed that show. He created and developed that show for VH1, right? And everybody was saying, oh, how it was wrong for VH1 to fire him from his own show. But that was his contract with VH1. Whatever he created for them was theirs, right? Now, Nick Cannon's contract with VH1 in terms of hosting the show, of course, has since ended. But hold on, let me put this up real quick. Hold on one second, guys. I want to remove this, and I want to add. I want to show you the Wild and Out picture, just because it's going to make sense why I wanted to show you this before I showed you the next thing. So this is, a visual of Wild and Out. This was the style of font that they used. It was very colorful, very crazy font, right? Now, okay, like I said, Nick Cannon has since finished his stint with VH1. He is no longer hosting the show on television, but that doesn't mean that Nick Cannon is ready to stop letting the money roll in. Do we have anybody here who watches Zeus Network? If you watch anything on Zeus Network, let me know in the comments. I do not. I have heard things. I have seen clips online, but I'm not spending 1 red cent on Zeus Network. I'm sorry. But to anybody getting money from there, I'm happy you're getting money. Now, Nick Cannon, as someone who enjoys money, he was given a contract by Zeus Network to develop a show for them, and he did. He called this show, and the show is called Bad versus Wild. Now, if you're looking at the visual, you can see that there seems to be a similarity between Nick Cannon's there seems to be similarities between the Wild and Out font and the what do you call that? The Bad versus Wild font, right? So Viacom, which owns VH1 and all of those stations, They are now suing Nick Cannon because they're saying, hey, you created this show for us. And now you've basically taken the show and brought it to another network. That's not what we agreed to, right? So there's probably going to be a battle over this. But I want to know from you guys as a savvy audience, right? Nick Cannon created the Wild and Out style of show, whatever it is. I'm not going to say that it's unlike any other show because I'm sure it was inspired by other things. But Wild and Out is wildly successful. So, of course, VH1, Viacom, they want to protect that intellectual property, right? That trademark, that brand. So they don't want people creating, even the person who created it for them, they don't want them going out and creating it for someone else. It's like when you have a non-compete clause when you work, if you work for some companies, they may make you sign something that says you can't, do this type of work or work with anybody in our field for such and such many years within a certain distance, right? I don't know if Nick Cannon had that with Viacom. However, Wild and Out is still on tour. So it's still, in the zeitgeist. Now, Bad versus Wild, you can't watch it if you don't have a subscription to Zeus. So, I'm not even sure what the viewership is like. But VH1 has 21 seasons, in the bank that they want to make money off of in syndication. And they probably feel like having this Bad versus Wild, which is essentially just a new version of Wild and Out, may take away from their viewership. So I want to know what you think about this. Do you think Viacom is doing too much in terms of in suing Nick Cannon, or are they just trying to protect their investment? They said they had a contract with Nick. They said we want you to create stuff for us, and that stuff stays ours. Nick did that, right? And his contract is done. So now he's going out and he's creating for other spaces, which he is allowed to do. But is his show Bad versus Wild too close to Wild and Out? I mean, they both have Wild in the title. I have not seen Bad versus Wild. If somebody want to lend me their Zeus Network, login info, I might check it out, or I'll just, YouTube a couple of snippets. But I can't imagine that it's super different from Wild and Out. But what do we think about this? Should they be able to sue Nick Cannon for this idea? Because Nick Cannon created it, even if he created it for them. What do you guys think? Now, we're not talking what's legally right. We're talking what's, what's just, what's moral. The two aren't always the same. Okay. So let me know what you guys think about this Nick Cannon stuff. Okay. All right, let me remove this. Stop screen. Okay. And all right, so we've gotten through that story and that story. Next one I want to talk to you guys about. Where's the okay. So I'm sure you guys know, you guys are very familiar with this company right here, Meta. Meta used to be known as Facebook, and Facebook still exists as an app, but the company that owns Facebook is now called Meta, of course. And like most companies out here, Meta is getting into the AI game. And there has been a lot of talk, a lot of controversy out here over how these AI programs are being trained. A lot of creatives, authors, and things like that. They're saying that people are pirating copyrighted work to train these AI models, which isn't fair because if the work is copyrighted, it has ownership, which means that owner gets to determine who gets to use their stuff. So if you're taking copyrighted work with the active copyrights and you're using it without that creator's permission, that is copyright infringement. Okay, so there has been a big discussion over that. And recently it was found that Meta staff, they pirated about 82 terabytes of information to train their AI program. Now, we're talking 82 terabytes, right? Think about now, most of us, we're out here, if we have a 1 terabyte space capacity computer, that is a lot of space for one person. Now imagine 82. So they're saying Meta not stole, but inappropriately used 82 terabytes of information, and they're pretty sure a lot of it was copyrighted. It had active copyrights on it. So I'm sure down the line there are going to be more lawsuits against Meta and this, but this is the problem with intellectual property and not keeping up with technology. There's no way to, for you as an individual author who's writing your book, and you've had your book printed, there's no way that you can preempt someone if they take a copy of your book and use it to train their AI, because once it's in there, it's in there. How are we going to assess the damages of what using your work to train that AI costs? So I expect to see a lot of lawsuits in the future against Meta for the type of AI that they use. But for those of you who are programmers out here who are training AI, you want to be very careful. Do your best, do your due diligence to make sure that the items that you're using to train your programs are in the public domain and that they do not have active copyrights where you need to get people's permission to use them. Okay? All right. Next story. What's this? Okay. We're going to do this one. Okay. So, all of us at one point or another, if we are reasonably proficient with technology, have pirated music, visuals, whatever, right? We've all done it at one point or another, whether we knew it was wrong or not. I was pirating in college and stuff like that. I didn't know. I mean, it wasn't illegal at the time, basically. But anyway, we have all pirated. We all had our websites that we went to, right? And while it didn't seem like a big deal to us, we're just like, oh, we're just downloading it, right? These pirate websites are a big deal. And you can get in a lot of trouble for them if you run one. For example, this picture that I'm showing you guys right now, this is a website called Kick-Ass Torrents. This website was run by a gentleman by the name of Artem Volin. Mr. Artem Volin was from the Ukraine, and he is believed to have been sitting on about $1 billion worth of copyrighted material on his website, Kick-Ass Torrents, where you could access movies, TV shows, all of that for, the free or whatever. And Mr. Artem Volin has been arrested for this. He was arrested in Poland, and they are now seeking to extradite him to the United States. So this gentleman was just, for you, he might seem like, You looking out, bro, because you're putting all of these movies and stuff and shows on the web for people to access at their leisure without having to go through a streaming app, but you're putting yourself at risk because now this gentleman has been detained outside of his home country and another country is seeking extradition. Intellectual property is real and it has real consequences, especially when you're talking about these big movie houses, these media houses. They want their money, okay? So please be careful. And if you used to use kick-ass torrents, I'm sorry that your thing is gone. Did I not download this picture? Oh gosh. Oh, I'm so mad at myself. Where is it? Okay, guys, so I have another picture that I want to show you. Give me 1 second. I just got to go into my drive, Google Drive. You know what I mean? I need a bit here. Is it? No, I didn't get it up in there. Anyway, that's fine. Okay. Let me take this down then. I don't have a visual for this last story, but I need y'all to use your imaginations, okay? Now, we all, if you are anywhere near my age or you are a hip hop fan, you know about Biggie Smalls, Big Papa. I love it when you call me Big Papa. Throw your hands in the air if you're a true player. I love it when you call me Big Papa. To the honeys getting money, pay your fellas like that, right? Okay, so Big Papa, Biggie Smalls, considered one of the greatest rappers of all time. He unfortunately died very, very young and in his prime. But he has never been, forgotten as one of the major influences in the hip hop game. And just like, people want merch for their favorite artists and things like that, people want Biggie Smalls merch. How many of you all have ever seen prints, like meaning like, posters or t-shirts or anything with a particular picture of Biggie Smalls where he is wearing a crown and it's like an off-kilter crown? That photo is known as King of New York. And if you didn't know, it is a copyrighted image, right? Now, apparently major retailers didn't know that this was a copyrighted image because Biggie Smalls' estate, which is run by his mother, Vanette Wallace. Biggie Smalls' real name was Charles Wallace. It's run by his mother and his widow, Faith Evans. They are suing retailers like Walmart, Nordstrom, Target, Bed Bath and Beyond, iCanvas, and Home Depot for selling unauthorized merchandise with this photo on it. So these places were selling posters, they were selling t-shirts, they were selling all sorts of merchandise that had Biggie Smalls' face on it with that iconic crown, and the Wallace estate wasn't getting any of that money. So Biggie Smalls' mother and his widow, Faith Evans, they're going after these retailers and saying, hey, run us some money. Like, I don't know if you remember, you can get a Wu-Tang t-shirt at Target, I believe, right? But I think Wu-Tang, they have a deal with Target. If you were able to get a Biggie Smalls King of New York t-shirt at Target, that was not authorized. They did not have Mama Wallace's permission to use her son's image on their merch, okay? So they are currently going after those big retailers: Target, Walmart, Nordstrom, Bed Bath and Beyond, Home Depot. Does Home Depot sell clothes? an eye canvas for selling that unauthorized picture. Now, keep in mind, Biggie Smalls' estate is valued at about $160 million. So, of course, they want to keep that money intact. They want each and every one of their dollars, especially in these days and times. Okay, we don't know what might happen. So, this is just again to let you guys know you can't just use somebody's face for your merch, especially if they're famous. There are licensing agreements to use the faces of your favorite celebrities. It's not a free for all. Well, if you're using it to make money, let me say that. If you let's say you take your favorite picture of your celebrity and you make yourself a t-shirt, that's one thing, right? Because you made it for yourself. But if you're going out and making these t-shirts and selling them to other people, that is an issue. That's where the issue lies. Okay, so you need to be very careful when making these tribute items for celebrities. Okay, you don't want to get caught up in an infringement lawsuit. Okay, so those were the stories that I had for you today. We talked about the Chiefs and the possible use of three-peat had they won. We talked about the Proud Boys losing their trademark. We talked about Meta pirating 82 terabytes of information to train their AI. We talked about Nick Cannon being sued by Viacom for essentially recreating Wild and Out for the Zeus Network. We talked about a Ukrainian citizen who is currently in the process of being extradited to the U.S. for running one of the biggest pirating sites ever. And we also talked about the Biggie Smalls estate suing large retailers for selling unauthorized Biggie Smalls merch of the image of himself of him with the crown on it. Okay, so those were the stories that I wanted to share with you guys. Hopefully, you enjoyed them. I know the shows have been a little short the last few weeks. I just haven't had enough stories to stretch the show out to an hour. If you guys find anything that you would ever want me to talk about, please let me know. I love it. Love it when you guys send me stories, okay? And also, if you are planning on starting your businesses at the top of this year or getting your trademarks at the top of this year, hit your girl up right there in the banner, free 15-minute consultations for first-time clients, okay? So this is where I'm going to leave you. Have a wonderful evening. Take care of yourselves. I will be dividing these up and putting them on the YouTube later in the week. And talk to you later. Bye. And is it ending? Okay. And